everybody. Konnichiwa, and I'm Shenko Osada from the Future Design Shibuya. And today we are delivering the conference talk about Esports Beyond. So the Esports Beyond is a project that aims to integrate esports culture into the city like Shibuya, as Esports Beyond is launching in our city during the Social Innovation Week. So we dive into the possible future of the esports and the city talk. And I'm here with the Mike from the PlayBrain, as well as we are with the Christoffer from the DreamHack, the Sweden-based organizer of the international successful digital festival of the same name, as well as the Sven, who is the head of the trade and the industry in the Jönköping, the city, the Sweden. So without the further going, and the Mike will be given the brief introduction of himself and also the Esports Beyond itself. Hi, Mike.
Thank you, Shinko. So my name is Mike Sheetal, CEO of PlayBrain. We're a company doing marketing for games, esports events, and related businesses around gaming in Tokyo. So we decided to take this opportunity during Social Innovation Week to really introduce to Shibuya a little bit about the esports world and what's possible with esports in collaboration with the city, which we're kind of excited to do. And it's really about introducing two aspects. So one is about the learning aspects of esports, understanding what it's all about. And the other one is to really experience it. So making sure that we can get a taste of esports, understand how that works. We have the experience will be around a League of Legends game, which will be running on the 15th. Esports Beyond, we really look at esports as something that is a combined experience of watching competitive gaming. And so we're looking at, there has to be a win or lose situation. There has to be this outcome that we're after, similar to a traditional sport, but playing computer games. And there's multiple levels as well. So we look at it in terms of having the community level, which is really just people getting together and playing. We look at it having an amateur level where there's competitive play and organized play, usually with the prize money as well. And then we look at it the professional level of play, which is where you really have salaried players and all these sort of things. And today we're kind of excited to look at this from the perspective of an event such as DreamHack, where you actually see all those levels in play, which is really an interesting example of that. And so we'll get into that a little bit with our guests today. We're also looking now to, talk with Shibuya City about how we can bring this into Shibuya City and look at some of the challenges that might be there, but also some of the opportunities and what it can do for the health of that city. Today, we want to look into a little bit more about the details of DreamHack in Jönköping, which is where its home base is. And we have Christoffer Melin from DreamHack to talk a little bit about that. So maybe we invite Christoffer and also Sven to join us. I'll introduce Christoffer first. Christoffer, welcome.
Hi, Mike. Thank you for having me on this panel. And
so maybe as a just to get kicked off, could you explain a little bit about your role at DreamHack and what you're doing there?
Yeah, absolutely. As Mike said, I'm working for DreamHack and has been doing so for almost the last 15 years, or I've been involved for the last 15 years in DreamHack, bringing especially the operational side to things. But in the last 3 years, I've been working more closely with the international expansion, finding out the strategy, how we should expand, and also working in close relationship with all the different host systems that we are talking with around the world. I think that's my main part of my DreamHack job today.
Great, thank you. And before we bring Sven into the conversation, can you maybe just tell us a little bit about the origins of DreamHack, because it's now 25 years old, if I'm correct. Where did it come from? Yeah.
So DreamHack was actually founded by two friends back in 1994 in a small town in the northern part of Sweden. And over the first 6 years, DreamHack was growing organic and became an event for everyone that loved what you can do with a computer. I think the first focus was actually not gaming. Instead, people was programming, creating demos and music. And I think within only 3 years, they had outgrown the school cafeteria in the small city of Malung, and they were looking for their new venue in Borlänge, also in the northern part of Sweden. And then it only took 3 more years actually to make the second move. And the team behind DreamHack, Martin and Kenny, our founders, they started to look for new venues around Sweden to be able to host the event. And with a super techie focus on the event, it was a very unknown topic among people. And there were a lot of venues that did look down on hosting an event such as DreamHack, since there's so many like young people gaming all the time. But after a while, they met with Elmia and they found one person that actually believed in the future of DreamHack, and that made it possible to move the event to Jönköping. I think with Jönköping came many benefits, such as the location, an easy way for people to travel from the largest cities in Sweden, since Jönköping is located in between the 3 biggest cities in Sweden. And I think that's one important thing for DreamHack, since Sweden only have a population of 10 million people. So since 2001, we have hosted our 2 biggest festivals, DreamHack Summer and Winter in Jönköping. I think we are looking forward to host many more in Jönköping as well. Great. So I think that's like the short story of DreamHack.
And maybe that's a good note to introduce our second guest. Sven Rydell is working at the Jönköping Municipality. And Sven, maybe you can give us a little bit of an introduction to what your role is in the city and how you've started to work with DreamHack.
Yeah, I'm my title is I'm head of trade and industry in Jönköping Municipality, and that means that I'm responsible for helping companies to develop in the city. That's my mission, and it's a very wide mission. It means many different things, but one of the things that I have really been focusing on quite a lot is to, of course, help the different companies here in this region to develop, and that means, for example, to understand more about digital possibilities and about the future competence and how young people, for example, think when they are choosing a place to live or a place to work. And that's why I've been very interested in DreamHack and understand more about the different parts of DreamHack and how we, as hosting very proudly DreamHack for many years now, and we call ourselves the city of DreamHack, how we can really gain and also contribute, of course, to the DreamHack development. But I meet a lot of companies in this region, and I have a lot of questions regarding different things. But one of the more strategic questions for us is to work close with DreamHack. So that's where I'm aiming with this cooperation.
Great, thank you. So I think it's one of the things that we're going to talk about today is really about how you're collaborating very closely. But maybe just before we go into the details of that, I want to first give our viewers a little bit of a taste of what DreamHack is. So we're just going to play a little video that gives a little introduction. So let's let that roll, and then we'll come back to the conversation. Okay, and that was the video. So now I want to dive into a little bit about the DreamHack event. As you saw from the video, it's a really big event. There's a lot of people when you're hosting it at Jönköping. And there's a lot of coordination, I'm guessing, that needs to go in there. There's a lot of work there. First of all, Christoffer, can you give us a little bit idea about the scope of DreamHack so that we understand how big is it in Jönköping, but also how big is it grown around the world as well?
Absolutely. And I think, as you saw in the video, these 25 years has enabled us to grow quite a lot. And we are actually a global festival these days. And I think 2020 was set out to be the busiest year ever for DreamHack. And we plan for 15 larger events and 9 festivals, in 9 different countries across the world, from India in the east until US in the west. And DreamHack started its global journey in 2011 with the expansion of the city of Valencia, together with our licensing partner, Encom. And since then, we have expanded ourselves and also with licensing partners in cities such as Austin, Atlanta, Las Vegas, Rio, Mumbai, Delhi, Leipzig, Moscow. As you see, the list is long, and there are many cities all over the world that we are into. And I think the first 2 focus areas for us has been, first off, Europe, and then going into North America. And now we are looking forward to bring DreamHack into new regions such as Asia, and also deeper down in South America as well. And I think DreamHack on a yearly basis is welcoming more than 350,000 visitors to our event. And since we have 2 events in Jönköping, they are contributing with around 100,000 people every year for that number. And we also have a good presence online with all the video game tournaments that we're doing and different broadcasts that we're doing with more digital lifestyle. And this year we hope to reach more than 240 million unique viewers online on the major online platforms such as Twitch TV or Imba TV. But we are also broadcasting on linear TV. So, for example, you can see it in Sweden sometimes on the national TV, or in Finland, or down in Malaysia. So it's a really broad product. It's more than just the festivals.
Great. And maybe because of this global expansion, I'm guessing that every city has its own flavor as well. And even I believe like the summer in Jönköping and the winter in Jönköping is very different in terms of how you enjoy it. Maybe you can talk a little bit about some of the differences that you find across the events.
Yeah, and I think one thing is that the core and foundation of all the DreamHack are the same across the world. And our experience are focused around the core values that we have: experience, participation, and community. I think for us, it's important that we deliver the same experience to all events across the world. But with that being said, the local adaptation is important. And the communities across the world are different, and they are expecting different experience as well. I think a good example, to make it super clear, is that we have something called Bring Your Own Computer, where you bring your computer for 72 hours, sit down and game. But this is not a super big thing in India. Instead, they are gaming on mobile devices. So in India, it's called BYOD, Bring Your Own Device. So people are bringing their mobile or their Nintendo Switch or whatever it could be to game for 3 days instead. So I think we also have activities such as art gallery that's working great in the US, but it isn't as popular in Sweden at the Swedish event. So that's one more occasion where you see that the local adaptation is important, and we try to adapt our activities and content to fit the local digital lifestyle. But we always need to have the core values in mind when we are creating the local adaptations. And I think for an event in Japan, for example, I believe that we have to adapt to the local culture of manga and cosplay even more to attract the local community. Yeah. I think that's overall how we are working with the local adaptation.
Great. And I guess for an event that's been running 25 years, I guess the people who are attending the event is also evolving over time as well. But what kind of people are attracted to the event? Is it primarily one type of people, or actually getting quite a broad range these days?
I think these days we're actually getting a quite broad range, just as you say. But I think it was a difference in the early days where it was heavily focused on males. And I think for many years, the typical DreamHack fan was around the age of 18. But we have started to see a shift, and the DreamHack visitors are getting older, and they usually have like a STEM education. And depending on the type of event and the esport content that we are bringing to the event, we can see differences in our audience as well. A good example is when we hosted a Dota 2 major in Stockholm, and the visitors was, instead of 18, around 28 years old. And we also see that the visitors at the regular DreamHack festivals are getting older and comes back to visit DreamHack events. And I think for every year, we are pushing the border farther to the right at the moment. And the audience that was born in the 80s actually stick around the events, and they start to bring their kids to our shows just to show them what they love. And I think looking at DreamHack events, it's easy to believe that the majority of our visitors are male. And I think that's true in some cases. The audience that are bringing their own computer to our events are majority male, almost 90%. But when you look at the full scope of visitors that come with festival tickets, day passes, then it's more like 50-50. And I think we did a good initiative almost 10 years ago when we started to create more activities and contents that fits both male and females, just to make sure that we have a good mix of people at the event, because I think that's important. And I also think that we know for a fact that DreamHack makes a difference for cities that we are visiting, and the DreamHack Winter was bringing in around 5.3 million USD in tourism impact for Jönköping. I think that is more than 10 million USD per year in tourist economic impact. And the average guests are staying for like 3.7 days, and they spend around 120 USD per day. So I think it's a very like trustful audience. They stick to the event, and they show up almost every time.
Right, and maybe that's a good note to talk a little bit more about the city that is hosting you. So maybe Sven, I direct this question to you. How is Jönköping's history with gaming? Was there anything before DreamHack, or was there any sort of base of gaming culture there before DreamHack came along?
I think just to put it in the context, Jönköping is a quite old city. It's, as Christoffer said, it's got a good location, just in the middle of South Sweden, and that means that we have about the same distance to both Oslo, Stockholm, and Copenhagen. So we are like a good center point for trade, logistics, and so on. And we have also a very old business culture here in this part of Sweden. So for over 700 years, this has been a natural place to meet and so on. And that means that we have this really big exhibition experience and big exhibition areas, both inside and outside, where DreamHack found a very good spot to develop, where we can host more than 100,000 people 2 times a year. And that's, of course, great for us. And as Christoffer said, it means a lot about the economy and so on for the sector here in Sweden, both for in Jönköping, both for hotels, restaurants, and so on. And we try now to develop DreamHack together with the team in DreamHack here in Jönköping, and for example, of course, connected them with the esport community local here in Jönköping, but also with as I was into before, with the local companies here, so they understand the force and everything within DreamHack. But we have a quite well-developed esport community here. For example, we have one of the biggest esport teams within our university here in Jönköping, and they have been working close with DreamHack for many years, and they are growing as well. And then, of course, we would like to achieve even more. We would like this to be the natural place for esport and gaming, of course, not only in Sweden, but in an international perspective as well, together with DreamHack. So I think that we have done something, but we have still a lot to do in that sense.
Yeah, I think Jönköping as a meeting point is certainly a very big reason. But are you able to sort of talk more about how Jönköping became the city of DreamHack? Like, how was the selection process? How did you choose that over, say, Stockholm, which is a much bigger city with much more higher population, for example?
I think I can chip in a little bit there. And I think when the location decision was taken almost 20 years ago, everything depended on who actually believed in in DreamHack, because I think DreamHack as an event wasn't a super successful event. It was not strong economic wise, and it did need help from a city or from a venue to be able to host the event in the start. And I think with the only city in Jönköping by that time, especially one person felt that we can help out with this, and this is something that we can do. So I think that's why it actually ended up in Jönköping in the first place. And then we got all the natural benefits of the location that both me and Sven has been talking about. And then from that, I think it came naturally from both sides. With the largest events in Jönköping since 2002, it's an aspiration for both sides to create the best opportunity for DreamHack to stay in Jönköping and at the same time build the brand of the city. Yep. And I think we have that aspiration to build that across more cities across the globe as well, and highlight them as the cities of DreamHack in the end. Because the whole city and the location is super important. And I think that's how you can build it out to be a citywide festival in the end, and not just a black box event inside a venue. Because I think that aspect is important both for DreamHack as a company, but also for the city.
Add something there. I think that, I mean, for the beginning, maybe the venue itself, the place, the Elmia location with both the inside and outside areas, of course, was very important. But I think also that, you know, Jönköping is 10th largest city in Sweden. I mean, out of a Japanese perspective, very small. We are 140,000 people living here, something growing quite fast anyway. But I think also we are famous for, known for being a very safe city. And I think that if you're going to bring your kid like 13, 14 years old and leaving them for 3 days somewhere, I think that's a very important perspective as well. So I think that maybe the biggest cities in Sweden, they are maybe, if I, as a parent, I feel that maybe they are a little bit more unsafe to bring my kid and leave him or her somewhere in the suburbs of Stockholm instead of going to, well, we know as a fact from statistics that Jönköping is a very safe place and quite known for that. I think that's also adds a value that we are very, very proud of.
Yeah, I agree with you. There are few cities where I actually can stand with my back straight and tell a parent on phone that your kid is safe at our event in this area. So I always had that as a strong point when talking about DreamHack.
Yep. Great. Let me give Shinko an opportunity, because I know she's got a whole bunch of questions regarding the city's interaction with the event. Let me pass it over to her to ask a couple of questions.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting to you know that how the DreamHack are collaborating with the Jönköping as a city. And just one quick question, like, have you visited Tokyo or Japan, or how image of like the city like Shibuya?
No, unfortunately not. But I've heard about Shibuya and so on. So I have some information about how it's working there. But I would really like to sometimes in the future visit Japan. That's always been on my list. So I hope so.
I had the opportunity to visit Tokyo last year. It was a very quick in and out, so I didn't have time to see super much of the city. It was more about getting meetings done, but I think I saw Shibuya and the famous dog in Shibuya, and also I went through the local metro system and subway, so I was at one of the busiest railway stations in the world. I've read up on later.
Okay. Yeah, like the city Shibuya is well known even like globally, but then as you mentioned, like a dog, like Hachiko, and also the Shibuya crossing, the busiest street, like crossing street, and then a lot of people visit, but then a lot of people quickly move to other city, because one really busy spot they come but then leave. So I think we really working on how the people can stay more, like longer, and even like the visit in many location in the city. So I'm really interested in how the DreamHack, as like also Sven mentioned, like the people stay in the city and enjoy the city as well, in addition to the experience of DreamHack itself. So this kind of things is really important for us, our city as well. So one quick question, like, how they collaborate the city and DreamHack, and also how the people experience other product like DreamHack as well. So how you create the experience, how you create the brand itself. This is something I really would like to know. Other than, both side collaborations.
I think if I start, I think you can see it in both short term and long term. I think in the short term, it's, as Christoffer said, it's a lot about, how many people come here, how much do they spend, they fill the hotels and restaurants and so on, of course, very nice. But I think in the long term, it's more important for us to understand how to really be the city of DreamHack, to be the natural place where DreamHack hopefully will develop and how we can develop with DreamHack. And that's more like both the brand of Jönköping, how could we be attractive coupled to DreamHack events, and maybe even also between the events. Even if we have them 2 times a year, I think that we can do even more to keep the feeling between the events. And also how we can gain interacting with DreamHack with other parts of the society. As the companies, or as where I work in the public sector, how do we understand what's happening inside there, and also take the effects into other places in the municipality. So I think in short term, we're quite happy already, but in the long term, we need to do more and to understand more how we can together cooperate to strengthen the part of DreamHack in Jönköping.
Yeah, and I think just agree with what Sven are saying, and what we're looking at right now, since we have a good relationship, and I think for the last 3 years, it's even closer to each other. We are starting to work towards the goals that we have on both sides, to be able to bring DreamHack to life all year around, do initiatives in the local communities, be with the DreamHack brand on the schools, for example, hosting tournaments and connecting with the local companies, and really make the city of Jönköping breathe the DreamHack 24/7 all year round. And I think that's a goal that the both of us have.
And I think also, if I may add something, I think that also, to be honest, I think that DreamHack has opening up much more, because I've been working with this for 4 years, and I think that also they've been quite a closed event, I think, but now I also think they are more cooperative when it comes to developing this event within Jönköping, and that's of course something that we are very happy with. So I think that also it's a change from our part in the public sector, and we are trying to understand even more. And I also think it's a different approach from DreamHack, that they are willing to let us in and to discuss not only what's happening 2 times a year inside Elmia, also how can we be even closer, and we are very, very, very happy for that.
So for the Jönköping, is a DreamHack with opportunity to open to network other cities, such as, like, I heard it's a lot of the city roaring, right? Like not only the inside of Europe, but also the US and like India, the things. Is this something also the good opportunity to connect other cities as well?
Of course it is, and I think that we can improve that. But I think that one thing that we are doing already is that a lot of people is brought to Jönköping thanks to DreamHack. For example, you, Mike, you have been in Jönköping and you're working worldwide with these kind of things, and that's very important. I think that you connect Jönköping with DreamHack, and also with this whole thing regarding esports and developing. So I think that's a good thing, good start for us. That people like to meet here. And people from all over the world working with different things, everything from being a broker within esport companies to developing games, to be a journalist writing about esports and so on. And if you gather here in Jönköping twice a year, that's really then we are the hub in some kind of sense. I think that's a really good starting point.
Just one quick question, like especially the esports. I think the esports world is still new to even like Japan and other world, and sometimes gaming. I think it's getting popular, but some parents feels like gaming itself is not like the good for like kids and things. How the gaming and esports is accepted in the community, especially like parents and the things? Is this very natural already in like Sweden, like Europe as well? Oh.
I think it has started to become more natural, especially since you see it in a lot of the different medias we have in Sweden, for example. When you can see it on national TV, then it makes a difference. But it's also something that we as a company have been working with. For example, during the festivals in Jönköping, we try to invite the parents to educate them about esport and gaming. But we should not forget that DreamHack isn't just gaming and esports, it's a whole digital lifestyle. So it's music, it's cosplay, it's gaming. So it's everything that fits within the digital lifestyle that we are working with. And esport is one component. But I think there's always been a upward hill for this esports, especially since many of the larger games has been, for example, Counter-Strike, and it's about polices and terrorists, and they shoot each other. So I understand that people get a little bit feared about the esport when one of the biggest games are about shooting. But I think also you can see that when more games are being popular, like FIFA, we did the national championships here in Sweden, and you could see that parents were going to the events with their kids and they were cheering on them and they were coaching them just as a regular sport game or football game when they're out on the football field.
Okay.
So I think it's a difference is happening, but it's important for us to educate around it as well.
Okay. So the purpose, the mission of the DreamHack is also the educate, like the community, and educate maybe some, there's also the parents and also the wider audience as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a super important part. And at the same time, it's important with all the media outlets that we are going through and working together with the broadcast, right? I think their mission is also to make esport known for the audience that isn't into esport as it is right now. I think COVID was a good example when it actually boosted the viewer numbers, and you couldn't bet on regular sports here in Europe. So a lot of people instead started to bet on esports, and then it also became with a better understanding for the games.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier that you were doing some activities with schools. So like what kind of activities did you do in conjunction with the schools in the area?
I think one of the biggest initiatives that we have is actually more on a national level than just pure in Jönköping, and that's like a high school tournament where schools from all over Sweden can compete and they end up in the final at the DreamHack event. But on the local basis, we have, together with the local gaming company, created tournaments on the different schools in Jönköping, especially in the game FIFA, which is a very good game to integrate people. And it's easy since you don't need to have the computer, it's instead played on an Xbox. And that also became super successful, going out to the schools, doing the tournaments, and getting everyone in the community involved into DreamHack.
Is that something that the city is helping you coordinate, or is that something that you're doing directly with the schools?
I would say it's with the support from the city, since the city is, what should you say, the owners or of the schools. So they absolutely help us out and open up the doors to get into the schools and do this.
And I think in Jönköping we have, of course, the unique opportunity to have the world's largest computer festival twice a year, and we try, as we were into before, to bring different groups and so on to understand more than gaming. It's more about the youth culture and so on, because the persons inside these walls or in this area will be the future co-workers or future students or future competitors or whatever. So we try to bring a lot of different aspects into DreamHack, and I'm as responsible for developing companies. I have had big meetings up at DreamHack in the winter event. So I've brought a couple of hundred, or even now it's maybe 1,000 companies up there, just to understand this, and walking around, listening to DreamHack people and so on, and just to get a glance over this big event with all the different parts, and try to understand the youth culture. It'll be quite hard to understand and quite hard to get into, because it's living in another world, in the digital world. So I think this is an advantage that we really use it quite good and has been developing the last years.
So the mention about the companies. So the DreamHack itself is also contributed to the like ensuring like working environment or workers or the companies as well. Like the recently like esports also making a lot of the startup companies, right? That like these things. So I just wanted to know like how the the collaboration contributed the local working environment or the companies or the new company bringing to the city as well?
I think, to be honest, I think that we can be much better with this, with developing companies within this sector. That has not really been the scope so far. So what we try to do now is, as I said, is to bring the current companies within all different types of businesses to DreamHack to understand more about everything that's going on there. And I think that we have one of the big opportunities that we have for the future is really to try to create like a business environment coupled to DreamHack. It's more today about bringing the current companies that we already have here, some of them very old, of course, and some of them brand new, to this event to understand and take the advantage of we being the city of DreamHack. But when it comes to developing companies out of this sector, I think that we have lot to do in the future. We are not really there yet.
Christoffer, is there any kind of companies that you would like to see being based in Jönköping, so when you come twice a year for the big events, or even in the bits in between, that you had that support there?
I think what we have today with DreamHack as a global brand, we have a lot of the like large global companies that are in our sector with the gaming gear or with the computer manufacturing and those parts. So I think what's super interesting for us is getting closer to the local companies that isn't, or like the non-endemic companies within Jönköping. And I think we are in a phase right now where we need to start to educate them about DreamHack so they understand, because I think there's many of the companies that has a good appetite for being at DreamHack, but they doesn't know at the moment what they should do. So I think that's super important for us to get the non-endemic brands into the festival, because the global companies we already have.
If we've been talking about the opportunity to bring in Japan, like DreamHack and things. So how do you see like the possibility and also like some, how to say, like, your opportunity, like, is there any like opportunity if you bring to Japan? How do you see the possible like vision? Like, because I think Japan could be a little bit, quite different from other world. Like also like I know that the India you launched already, but Tokyo and Japan could be quite different. So I just want to know if you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think it all goes back to what I talked about a little bit before about the core values that we have. I think they are the most important tool that we have to know what we are creating, a product that fits our events and the local communities. I think we have tried many different things over the years, and I think we learned the hard way that when we create products that doesn't live up to the core values, we rush the development, we usually fail and need to go back and redo the work. And I think DreamHack also has a history with grassroots communities, and the event has been built and shaped by volunteers in the early days. I think that has helped us a lot to stay relevant and strong in the communities. And I think just both myself and our president is actually coming from a volunteer basis more than 15 years ago. So I think what's important is that find cities that has a local strong grassroots community that they maybe work with on a daily basis, and they actually support the local communities. And I think that will create like the growing ground to be able to host events like DreamHack. I think from all the cities that we brought DreamHack to, it works best in the cities where there are strong local communities and they have the support from the city.
Okay.
Then it has been easy to integrate those communities into DreamHack.
Have you seen the opportunity in like is a city like Shibuya as well? Like, so is this?
So you mean more dense kind
Yeah,
of
more dense,
highly
yeah.
populated cities. I think you have in Los Angeles,
Yeah.
in Anaheim, right?
Yeah, and I think we have looked at many larger cities, not Shibuya specific, but since I took the time to read up a little bit on Shibuya before this panel, I think it's important to find similarities with other cities that we are in. So, for example, I think Shibuya is a good city with very young people. It's well connected, and you can see like the lines between Jönköping and Shibuya that we can actually tick off some of the things that are super good and strong with Jönköping. I think that can help us to build for the future.
No, we don't have a land, right?
Yeah,
No,
so-
Jönköping, I think you have a big land and facilities and things, but then vice versa, we have very small land and then so much dense.
Yeah, and I think that's also one part, like looking into the specific venues, what you can do. But I think
Yeah.
also it's an opportunity to develop the DreamHack brand from being centralized again around one venue. It can be more spread out to the cities with different activities. Can you get an art gallery to move into a local art gallery during 3 months around the event, and then you can highlight everything during 1 week of DreamHack. So I think there are possibilities, and we are trying to work it out how we should shape the future DreamHack as well.
Yeah, I mean, have you looked at some like more population dense locations already? Like, I don't know what the situation is in Mumbai, for example, but I imagine that's a higher population density city as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what it comes back to with the business cities, it's actually about getting the support from the city, because it's hard to get the reach in a city when it's super busy. If you go to a tier 2 city or a tier 3 city, then DreamHack can be the event of the week. But if you come to Mumbai, then you are 1 in a million things that happening the same week. And then it's hard to attract the audience that isn't like the core audience of DreamHack. So I think there are challenges with bigger cities, but it's possible to solve it, since we have done the events in Mumbai, for example, or we went to Anaheim and it was a really successful event.
I think if I can add something there, I think that, I mean, for Jönköping is for real the city of DreamHack. I mean, even my boss, and he's managing director for the whole municipality, he has in his mail signature, he says the city of DreamHack. And of course, I think that will not be the case if it has been in Stockholm or Gothenburg and so on, some of the bigger cities, because they will never be like the city of DreamHack, because they are city of many things. But we are very happy with developing and growing up together with DreamHack, and we will do our utmost to keep DreamHack here and develop together. So we like to be like the greenhouse for developing DreamHack, and maybe you can use this kind of experience that we have also in Shibuya or in other places. So I think there are a lot of things to learn, even if the surroundings are completely different. I think that what counts is how to understand the whole event and so on. And I think that's about the same wherever you are.
Maybe just one more question, sort of coming back to that, the collaboration between the city and the event. Can you give some more practical examples of how you're able to collaborate? What sort of support can the city give to the event, and vice versa, some of the things that the event can stimulate in the city as well?
Yeah, I mean, I have some examples. As I said, we arrange meetings with companies. We bring them to the DreamHack events, and that's one example. And then, of course, we are inviting them. We know them, and we are making like an agenda for them with things on DreamHack and also other things that we think they contribute to the development. And that we have been doing now for 3-4 years. And as I said, bringing even up to 1,000 companies so far to DreamHack. Then we have a cooperation when it comes to marketing and so on, and how to, let's say, help DreamHack to have develop Jönköping as a venue when it comes to hospitality as well, when it comes to restaurants, hotels, transports, and so on. We put a lot of efforts in all the practical details, so they should feel even more and more welcome, all the guests coming to DreamHack. And we also know, as Christian was into, that the audience is developing, and they are getting maybe a little bit older, and maybe they have other demands than when it comes to surroundings and so on. So we try to be supporting even that. And right now, actually, we are talking about employing a person here together with DreamHack in Jönköping that can be only working with being a part of the DreamHack community here in Jönköping all year round, and being 100% focused on developing DreamHack as a venue here in Jönköping. And I think that's the natural next step, to step up the ambitions and also use all the advantages that DreamHack brings to Jönköping.
So the mindset, you know, the because I think the theme of this conference, I mean the talk is like esports and the city. So now the Jönköping, the people mindset, you know, it's changed, like, you know, accepting like esports and the communities, and then also collaborations, even like some of the citizens, are they really now getting welcome this kind of the, you know, esports, the concept, you know, changed recently, or how the acceptance level and also the, you know, welcoming?
I think that more and more people understand about the esports and so on, because that can be a little hard to understand if you're not into it. And I think that when we now have been used to having DreamHack here for many, many years, I think that more and more people maybe have been there from the beginning as a participant, and also maybe heard about persons been there. So I think that we understand more and more about DreamHack. And I also think that for us, the esport is a part of the whole culture and the whole society. So I think that we understand more about the context also about the esports. So as one example, I know that the university esport team here is one of the biggest in Sweden, and they say to me that when they are trying to attract students to Jönköping, to be a part of the esport community in the university is really one of the big advantages, and that's thanks to DreamHack. So I think that it's connected: DreamHack, university, the esport team, and being attractive to students. And of course, that's very nice for Jönköping, because that really means that we have an effect, a concrete, obvious effect of DreamHack when it comes to bringing people here.
Interesting too, you know, the here, like, is, you know, you guys like a government side, kind of the government, the public sector side, is kind of proud of, you know, having the DreamHack in the city, and also like esports. And then I think also the university side is also kind of proud of the having like the esports team, and, you know, kind of the champion in the, you know, like Sweden side, right? So this is like ideal, like situation, like how the, you know, the DreamHack as a kind of project or the event, and collaborating with the government side, and then also growing together, and growing even like externally, you know, building the brand as well, like together. So this is kind of ideal situation, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's nice to hear it from the outside, because when you're working in this all the time, it's hard to see it. So I think we have reached somewhere. And also worth to mention is that the university here, they have quite a special actually development team and research team. That was the word I was looking for. A research team working just with a professor working with how is the esport and so on affecting society, for example, or companies. So, and that's also thanks to DreamHack that they have been actually expanding a whole research team coupled to esports, and also, of course, together with the team in the university. So I think that we are starting now to get something there.
And I think you also can see from a DreamHack point of view how there's more initiatives coming up within Jönköping, both within the municipality with different like you redo what you call where kids goes after school, and they put in more PCs, make it more like LAN cafe, and they are building on the like gaming into the school areas and stuff as well. So I think as DreamHack you can see that, and we are very happy to see that Jönköping actually care and develops more things outside just the work that we are doing together.
Just to sort of look at one other aspect of that as well. Obviously, it's a really expensive event to put on. There's so many parts to it. There's so many aspects of it. I just from talking to you previously, Christoffer, I understand there's several pieces to that. One obviously is like you're selling tickets to the event, but also you have to have corporate sponsorship and support as well.
Mm.
So I'm just interested in like, I imagine a lot of that is coming just as like national or international companies, but how much of that is actually from the local community, and also reverse-wise, like how are some of these companies that are local benefiting from the presence of DreamHack and the business opportunities that come out of that?
I think when you look at the local side of things, it's more about the companies that are doing recruitment, about schools, and those are like shipping in the traditional way of doing exhibitions at the festivals, but also doing branding and marketing around their companies at the festival. But I think for Sweden is such a small country, so I would say that local is almost like national wide in Sweden, where the companies are coming in through. I think there's still a challenge because we are working with such a global product that the price tag sometimes is too high to get deeper involved with the bigger products that we are creating, that you need actually the global budget support to be able to activate on the DreamHack events outside like the festival expo part. So I think it's a challenge for us, but as I said before, it's about educating the local business life and get more of the non-endemic brands into the festival. And I think that's a development that we need to do on our side to understand how we better can integrate with the local companies, but also get the help to educate them to take the step into the digital lifestyle.
And for us working with business development, of course, in Jönköping, it's very nice to have all these global and national, international brands or companies coming to Jönköping, being attracted by DreamHack. And I think that's maybe the highest value when it comes to, let's say, well, being a part of that society. And we try to encourage the local companies as well to take part in DreamHack. But I think so far, it's been more of visiting and understanding, trying to understand more than using DreamHack as a platform for marketing, for example. I think that we don't really have that kind of, well, companies here right now. So I think that that they come here and that we can meet them and maybe also put them together in a network with the local companies here will help us quite a lot. So that's maybe how as far as we have come so far.
So as I think, you know, city itself is also interested in normally like business side. I think you are the span from like, you know, developing the business side. What kind of like global companies are really investing like DreamHack? Especially, are they partnering global partners like, you know, or also the how the local company like investing? Like especially like audience side, I think they may be interested in what kind of the, you know, partners are, you know, involved in, you know, supporting the DreamHack itself.
I think the main DreamHack global sponsors are within the industry, and you have companies such as Monster Energy, the energy drink, that is one of the biggest partners that we have, that goes around to all the DreamHack festivals all over the world and bringing both expo side content into all the biggest esports productions that we're doing, or we're working very closely with Asus, the computer and peripheral manufacturer. We have Corsair. And we also start to see a trend where there are some of the bigger non-endemic brands going into sponsoring our products as well, especially now since we are working very closely with ESL, or we are actually one company today. We have brands like Mercedes that are involved in the esports products. We have had McDonald's on products. So you see this large global corporations are stepping into esports as well. And I think with that, more non-endemic companies will follow as well. I think there's a really huge interest from marketing bureaus to understand what we are doing and bringing their clients into the esport as well.
The, you know, a lot of the global brands, but also any like, you know, you see like some Japanese brands supporting like DreamHack as well.
I think on the Japanese brands that we have been working with, I think one part is actually Nintendo. Since they have been in the industry for so many years, we have a good relationship and creating different tournaments for them at our festivals. So we have done tournaments in, for example, Smash or into Pokemon, both like the trading card game and the video game. So I think that's the best connection between DreamHack and Japanese companies.
And I think if I can add something, I think that the big potential is actually to integrate also with companies not within, let's say, the esports sector. It's about understanding how you can use, let's say, the forces within esport and so on. As we have two examples for companies here in Jönköping is, for example, Husqvarna. They are well known for manufacturing chainsaws and self-going lawn mowers and so on. And of course, they're working very, very hard with developing different types of robots and artificial intelligence within the products and within the production and so on. They can, of course, see a lot of similarities with different things going on in DreamHack. We also have Saab, one of the biggest defense industries here in Sweden at least, and they're also working global with developing different types of instruments for air fighters and so on. And they can, of course, also see a lot of similarities with different esport or games, for example. So I think that they can really see the connection between DreamHack and their own businesses. But they are not working within esports, but they can see all the couplings. So I think if you think like that, you can find quite a lot of companies that would be interested in understanding more about this esports and the culture.
You've mentioned, we've talked a bit about the commercial aspect of it and how these companies supporting the event is really, really important. But the other thing that struck me visiting the event last year was the volunteer culture that's at DreamHack. And I'm kind of interested to hear a little bit more about that and how much of that is really from the local community and how much of it is people coming from all over the country or I guess, or even Europe.
I would say for the local crew communities, I think it's quite strong in Jönköping, but also in the bigger cities like Stockholm or Gothenburg or Malmö. There's a lot of people coming into the event as volunteers. And I think at the DreamHack event, we have roughly 650 to 800 volunteers working with the event. And many of the people are spending almost 2 weeks every year to build the DreamHack in Jönköping. And when the company was founded, it was two guys, Martin and Kenny, that worked with it for the whole year. And the rest of the things was built from the volunteer basis. As I said before, both me and our president Marcus came from the volunteer basis, building the DreamHack product until it actually was space for us to step in and be a part of the company for real. I think the volunteer crew is super important for us. And they are coming from Jönköping, but also from the whole of Sweden and even from like UK or Germany as well.
When you're opening up in different cities, are you finding more challenges at getting that the volunteer base coming versus Sweden, where you've been 25 years?
I think what we have tried to do in a lot of the cities that we are opening up is working with a local partner that is strong and have a good understanding of the local communities, and that have helped us to bring in more volunteers on an easier level, I would say. So I think there hasn't been a city where we have been lacking volunteers, and I think that's really thanks to the local communities that we have been working with.
When I visited like South by Southwest, like the US, like kind of the event, and the city itself is really like the festival of the the South by. And I was really impressed, like the local people also enjoying one part, and then also volunteer, like mentioned, that everybody really want to be the volunteers because you meet people, you experience like the conference and network in this side, and also like nighttime, everybody enjoy like music or maybe theaters or these things, entertainment part. So I think it was I found that this is the best matches to the city, city hosting, welcoming people, but also like even like community enjoying the welcoming, and at the same time people learning a lot of things together. So I think DreamHack, from like Mike mentioned, like he visited and then it was like similar situation, one big festival, everybody enjoying.
I agree, and I think it's like you're talking out of our strategy document, because I see a vision in the future where it's opened up and to be a citywide festival, more like South by Southwest. And I would say that's what we are aiming for together with the city of Jönköping, and be able to build that South by Southwest for esport and gaming is, I would say, the ultimate goal in the end to have that.
And that's, I mean, that's nothing that we have anything against. I mean, I think, as I said before, that the DreamHack is opening up the strategies for these kind of ideas, and that's really supporting us as well. So I think one example of that already is that when the summer event is going on, the DreamHack event on the outside part of it is open for everyone here in Jönköping. So I think that's one step in this direction, and we are looking forward to develop more in that sense, and we are ready to be a good partner.
Yeah. So it's really creating like one culture, like, DreamHack and also the Jönköping, together creating like future culture together, and then involving the older communities, like from the kids to the older people, So,
Yes.
one time you were aiming that this kind of, the festival coming every year, like maybe 2 times a year, and then, dreaming like the moment to enjoy things. And this is something I think we also, the city itself is like creating. You really want to create that kind of things. I think, Social Innovation Week, we are, this time, hosting, but then also, we want to create the moment together to everybody waiting this kind of moment.
Yeah.
So this could be something like DreamHack probably already creating, but maybe more developing for the future.
Yes, I would say that what we want to develop, and that's how the future should look like, because I think it's important for us to stay relevant in all ages and reaching all the peoples within the communities that maybe can't afford to attend the DreamHack festival. Then we can get the festival to them instead.
So I think I just want to ask one closing question. As Shingo mentioned, looking at the way that the culture is developing in the city is really, really important, and that collaboration with the event and the city and making sure that they're really integrated entities is something that's really important. And we're really interested in looking at how that could be executed in Shibuya. Any sort of last advice that each of you could give us for looking at such an endeavor launching in Shibuya?
Absolutely. I think it is as simple as work together. I think for many years, DreamHack and Jönköping didn't work together. It was a small financial support from the city, but I think that didn't make a lot of difference for any one of us, actually. And as it is right now, we're taking advantage of the strengths and the work together to benefit both the city and DreamHack. And I think that makes a huge difference in how we can develop DreamHack as a company from a black box event into the citywide festival we have been talking about. And I think it takes time, and I think it needs investment from both sides to ensure a bright future. And I think it's not 5 years, it may be 10 years in the future where we can see the actual fruit. I think it's staying together for a long time and work together.
It's a couple of things. I think one thing is to be curious and to try to really focus on understanding what is happening within DreamHack for real, and to try to see what's in it for us in Jönköping. And we have decided that this is a strategic event for Jönköping that we will really focus on and developing together with DreamHack. And I think also one thing is that we the city is the platform, and DreamHack is the engine and driving this event. And I think that we need to respect that, because they are the best in developing the event and being relevant to the audience. That's not our specialty in the municipality. We can be there as a support and infrastructure and couple DreamHack to the society, but we will not ever be the event itself, because that's DreamHack. So I think that you need to realize that you have different roles here. But if we work together, as Christoffer said, it will be much better. But we have a different roles, and I think that you need to respect that.
Thank you so much, Christoffer and Sven. It's been a pleasure having a chat. Really appreciate it.
Thank you guys for having us.
Thank you so much.
Okay, for me, that was really interesting insights into what can be done with a really strong collaboration with such a strong event as DreamHack, bringing such interesting culture along with the city of Jönköping. I think it's really fascinating about how strong that culture can build, the business development, the local community development, all these things. And I'm really interested to see what could be achieved in Shibuya. What are some of the unique challenges we might find as well? But it really shows the potential and the excitement that we could actually achieve.
Especially like, the situation probably like Yonshopping and Shibuya are different. But then, how the city committed to the DreamHack itself, and then how closely collaborate. This is something like, especially if we bring something like global event, or even trying to build some esports like culture and the community into the city, and then I think the city itself has to commit something, because I think so many things are happening, but then one part, I think we really need to commit something. That's something. And also I think it's interesting comment like city as a platform, and then maybe like a DreamHack is kind of engine. I think the platform and engine has to closely work together.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So this is, I think kind of again open my eyes. And then we have to build the strategy, and then how we continue work together, to grow together. Yeah. So that's, things. And then, but also another part is, I think esports is really again interesting, and something for the future. And then we should really continue to talk, how we involve these kind of people, and then how we create the strategy and real planning and really into implementation. Yeah.
I think through examples like DreamHack, we can see how esports and gaming culture and this sort of festival concept can actually bring it to a much broader audience and be culturally beneficial to a much broader audience.
That's Thank
you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everybody.